Lokati here. Today we are going to be discussing our Splitting Steel Champion for Legacy of Phrecia. This has been a build we've done a few times over the past seasons, and with the change away from Champion, we've decided to go with Blind Prophet. Blind Prophet seems like one of the most obvious answers to a crit-based projectile build, and that is exactly what Splitting Steel is. We're going to be running a tri-LE crit-based build with a one-handed sword and a shield for survivability and damage. So let's get in there and take a look at our Splitting Steel guy. We will be running, as I said, Blind Prophet for Splitting Steel, which is a shadow-based character. We're going to start off with a low budget build, a couple of divs to get started on this. Obviously, if you don't have all of the items that are part of the low budget build, you can just come in with rares and get started. One of the biggest holdbacks previously to getting Splitting Steel off the ground was the fact that Nimmies was almost a base requirement to make Splitting Steel feel good, because all of your damage is on the return of the projectiles. And so Blind Prophet getting directionless, allowing them to have 50% of the projectiles return, is absolutely massive. This frees up the link for return projectiles, so you're not taking a hit off of your links. And it is 11% more damage than returned projectiles, in addition to saving you a skill link. So that's going to be very, very strong for the setup. Most of our nodes here we're going to take are going to be defensive, but we have a couple of offensive nodes right here. We are taking a lot of life everywhere. And in fact, we will go ahead and pull 2 life nodes off right here and come down into Blood Siphon, which is going to be better for us overall for our total life. But you're going to go ahead and grab these early on. This is damage, life. We come down across here and we get Frenetic for Frenzy charges. We take our link here, come down across and get life and Mark Mastery down here for Elemental Mastery with Inversion, along with Revenge of the Hunted, down for some Spell Suppression here and some Spell Suppression here. Now, in a low budget, we don't have a lot of room for Spell Suppression on our gear, so we're running 81% with Lucky Spell Suppression, and that's just to help give us a little bit more sustainability versus spells. We're coming down here and taking our crit node here. We're taking Survivalist and Acuity via our Intuitive Leap gem and skipping over this Evasion per Frenzy charge here and grabbing Fervor. We're taking Lethality for Proj damage. We're taking more life here. We're taking Bleed Mastery with Cornered Prey. We're taking Mark Mastery for Calling Strike. And then up and across to Art of the Gladiator, Bravery, as well as Mana Mastery for Mana Reservation, Armor and Evasion Mastery on Cloth and Chain, and then more life on Golem's Blood. We are relying on Testudo for block, along with Life on block and Disciple of Slaughter. Now, this is a fairly offensive version of the build, and I will at some point do a quick update and include a more defensive low-budget version of the build. But mostly at this point, these are going to be plenty of defenses to get you through the game. Now, this is set up to get you up to level 90. Obviously, if you're not level 90 yet, my advice would be to take away the DPS nodes rather than taking away the life nodes. But you'll just have to choose how your character feels to see which nodes you want to sacrifice as you are leveling up your character. For skills, we're running Splitting Steel with Trinity, Immolate, crit damage, concentrate effect, and elemental damage with attacks. 4 blues on your armor is going to be a tough thing to get. So the Lion Eyes Vision is an armor base, and we only have 1 red on here. So if you are having trouble getting your colors set up, you can run Inspiration and Volatility as alternatives to some of the higher damage nodes that we have listed here. We are running Vol Haste, Enduring Cry with Urgent Orders, and more duration on Vol Haste. If you don't want to run Urgent Orders, you can run a Vol Smite here instead, and the Vol Smite will just do an additional aura for damage. And then whenever you don't have Vol Smite up, you can use Smite for an additional aura for damage. And with more duration, you only have to press this button once every 6 or 12 seconds. We are running Mark on Hit with Sniper's Mark. We're running Blades for mobility. We've got some free slots here. You can put things like Steel Skin in here, which is a very, very good defensive one to have up. We are running Determination with Skitterbots, Flesh and Stone, and Enlighten. If you feel defensive enough, Determination could be replaced with Wrath instead, and that will give you a little bit more damage on the build instead of more survivability. But I think with the access to gear you have, Determination is going to be a better choice here. And finally, we're running Precision with Arrogance and Blood Rage. For our items, we are using a Rebuke of the Vaal or a nice Tri-Ele DPS sword. We're running a shield that has high block, life, and resistances, a helmet with resistances and life. Specifically, we need Chaos Res on our helmet, Chaos Res on our gloves, and Chaos Res on our rings just to get a sufficient amount of Chaos resistances. Freezing Lion's Eye Vision for the free Pierce on our Splitting Steel, which is very important. Dark Ray Vectors for Frenzy charges. Carnage Heart is just a great all-around amulet that's cheap to get. And we're anointing Circle of Life right now because that is a huge amount of recovery, which is going to keep you alive through the leveling process while your defenses are lower. If you feel strong enough defensively, Circle of Life can be replaced with Whispers of Doom, allowing you to use Punishment Curse alongside Sniper's Mark. Taming is going to assist us with our elemental damage again, and a Prism Weave is just a really cheap, really strong belt that you can use for your character. For flasks, we're running Silver, Diamond, Jade, and Granite right now. We've got a Lethal Pride to pick up Intimidate on melee hit, and Intuitive Leap Gem to get some quality of life out of our passive points. And then just a generic Corrupted Blood cannot be inflicted on you, and then stats and damage, like whatever. You just need a jewel that has Corrupted Blood cannot be inflicted on you and some useful stats on it. So that'll round out our low budget on the character itself. Now, up to current budget, which was where I was playing the character last time, puts you around 127 million DPS total, gives you 65k effective health pool, 12k fizz hit, 30k fire, cold, and lightning, and just a really solid all-around character. We are running a Tincture, a Granite Flask, a Silver Flask, Adziri's Promise for some additional damage, and a Jade Flask right here. If you need some additional crit because you're missing maybe a crit note on here, you could run a Diamond Flask instead of Adziri's Promise right here. On our helmet, we've got Accuracy along with Spell Suppression, Life, and Stats. On our Buckler, we have Spell Suppression, Avoid Elements. This is a Crusader Shield, so it's 1% increased damage per block. And then a Tri-Ele sword right here, which is just a fractured, essence slammed sword that is reforged for speed and then crafted on with strength plus int and crit. Our gloves are spell suppression, attack speed, life, resistances, and then crafted damage while leeching. We're running a Ralakesh, a Yoke, an Arn's Anguish, and an Interrogation. These all go together. So Yoke and Interrogation go together with Skitterbots for a huge bonus to your damage, and Ralakesh and Arn's Anguish go together for a huge bonus to your damage on your character. And down here on our jewels, we just have some additional jewels and a cluster jewel with Feed the Fury, Fuel the Might, Fuel the Fight, and Smite the Weak. Really, the big one you're looking for here is Fuel the Fight. That is 20% increased damage while leeching and 8% increased attack speed. You do not have to get this exact cluster jewel. There are better ones and worse ones out there. Just get something with useful nodes on it, but Fuel the Fight is one of your most powerful nodes here. On our skills, again, Splitting Steel with very similar setup right here. We are running Awaken Elemental Damage with attacks to stop reflected damage and Volatility. Again, if you don't have the blue slots available, you can run Inspiration to assist with that. You could even run Hypothermia if you end up with green instead of blue, or green instead of blue on your body armor. And so you got some flexibility in the nodes that you select on your Splitting Steel links. Again, Enduring Cry, Vol Haste, Vol Smite with more duration, Sniper's Mark, Mark on Hit, Whirling Blades, Determination, Skitterbots, Flesh and Stone, and Precision with Blood Rage and Arrogance. Now, we are on this character in our Helm slot. We've switched over to a Guardian's Blessing node. This is just to assist in boss DPS. For Ray Spectre, you're going to run I've blanked. The marionettes that resurrect themselves after they die. And so you'll hit your anger, and then you'll drain the life out of your marionettes. When they die, your anger falls off. They'll resurrect a few seconds later. You anger again. This gives you a cooldown button that you can use under bossing, which goes along with Vol Haste and Vol Smite for additional boss damage. But you won't be using this all the time unless you just really want to hit it all the time. Got an uptime of about 40 to 60%, depending on the marionettes. If you're able to stagger their death cycle, then you can actually have it up all of the time because one will be dying while the other one is resurrecting. But typically they get hit, and it's not anything you can rely on. So probably about 50 to 60% uptime on that. Our passive tree is largely unchanged. We just have a few more things that we've picked up along our passive tree and included our cluster jewel right over here. Again, lethal pride over here, and you're looking for double damage, increased fizz damage, things like that. More specifically, the most important thing on here is going to be 10% chance to intimidate enemies for 4 seconds on hit. That is a big bonus to our damage. Now, you can use a timeless jewel search that we have right in here that includes intimidate and includes the damage nodes that affect your character. And you just hit search and it'll tell you what is available out there and the best one for you. And you'll just go down here, copy this trade URL, and buy one of the ones off of this list right here. Now, the last two ones will be our ridiculous budget and our ridiculously tanky budget. These are both stretch goals for the league. Going to be tough to hit either of these, but 1.2 billion DPS for this budget, and then 634 million DPS for the tanky budget with a million effective health pool, 26k fizz max hits, and 9175 55 down the road. So both of these budgets are very, very strong. Passive tree is slightly changed on both of those. Skills are slightly changed on both of those. And the items are slightly changed. Just much better versions of everything. And so you've got a perfect sword, a really, really strong shield, a really strong helmet, really, really strong gloves that are incursion gloves, double corrupted lion's eye, double corrupted Arn's anguish, double corrupted boots, so on and so forth. And so this just gives you an idea of where you can get to on the build if you're really pushing for a strong build. But this will give you a few different budgets to play with and figure out what you want to do with your splitting steel blind prophet. Now, if you have any questions over anything, drop a comment down below or come by Twitch. I will continue to update this build for anyone who is playing the build. I will be league starting a Righteous Fire build, and I will also be including a list to my Phrecia build guides. We've got Paladin Cyclone, Paladin Flicker Strike, Wild Speaker, Flicker Strike, Trial Master, Righteous Fire, which is going to be my league start. Blind Prophet, Lightning Strike, Blind Prophet, Splitting Steel. We've got a Behemoth Glacial Hammer and a Scavenger Forbidden Rite that we're working on as well. And so a lot of different builds that you can play with. You're welcome to pick any one of these. And if you have any questions over something, like I said, come by channel and I'm happy to help anytime. Thank y'all very much for watching. You have a wonderful day. Peace.